Okay, so in this video we've got a number of different devices. We're going to end up being able to configure a router in a very basic form. So we've got two PCs, a switch and a router. So you'll notice that these triangles are red. That means we've not got a working connection between the switch and the router because the router by default has closed interfaces, so we need to configure that. So we're going to give the router and each PC an IP address on the same network, and we're going to test whether they can communicate. So if I click on the router, you'll notice if I make this a bit bigger and zoom in, this is the back of the router. So you've got some interfaces here now. Some people might call them ports, but it's a bit dangerous in networking terms to call these ports because that's an whole different ball game. So you'll see GE 0/0/1 and GE 0/0/0. So these are the two interfaces that we can plug a network cable into and configure these two interfaces separately. I've got a power button here that I can turn on and off. So, give it a flick. And you've got a console cable, which again we'll go into in later sessions. So minimize that. So I'm going to go to the CLI, so the command line interface, and I'm going to start configuring this router. So all this that's going on now is it's just powering itself on. So we'll just wait for that to load. And now it says, would you like to enter the initial configuration dialog? I'm going to say no. So type no, press enter and enter again. So here you've got where it says router. If I keep pressing enter, it'll just keep repeating that line. Now, when you're configuring a router, as you go down through different chains of command, you can do more and more different things. So as we go into later weeks, we can set security privileges at each one of these levels. So the first level is a bit like a guest mode, and I can't do a lot other than just look around. So if I type enable, that will take us onto the second layer. So you'll notice that the greater than symbols change to the hashtag symbol. Now, I want to tell it that I want to configure it from a terminal mode. So that's the next command. If you type configure terminal, press enter, and you'll notice that it's changed to router in brackets config hashtag. So again, we've got into a lot more of a config mode now. So next one is to configure one of them interfaces that we mentioned earlier. So it's interface gigabit Ethernet 0/0/0 was one of the ports. Again, we've moved into another line here, so I'm actually logged in basically to that interface there. And I'm going to give it an IP address. So 92.168.1.1, and then I need to give it a subnet mask as well, which again we'll go into in great detail later on. I press enter. So that's accepted. That IP address is now given to that port. If you've got an error message, you've done it wrong, and it'll be symbolized by it'll tell you where the error is occurring. So now I need to turn that port on because, like I say, it's off by default. So if I press no shutdown and enter, so it says gigabit Ethernet 0/0 has changed to up. That port should now be open, or that interface should be open. So type exit, and it gets you back to the beginning, and I can just close that window down. You'll notice that this triangle is turning green now, so we're getting a connection. So I need to give an IP address to these PCs as well on that same network. So in the previous video we mentioned we're configuring the last number in the IP address. So it was 1.1 on the router, so I'll go 1.2 this time. The default gateway is the address of the router. Okay, so that's that PC done. And then PC 2, 2.168.1.3. And then I need to give this the default gateway is the router address. Okay. Let's test if we can connect PC2 to PC3. So click on desktop, command prompt, ping 2.168.1.2. So that's a working network. So quite a lot going on there with a router, a switch to connect to the PCs. But then PCs can now communicate, and they can also communicate with a router. If I'm on that one.